The story kicks off with our main guy showing up in some strange otherworldly spot, greeted by this supreme being with a calm but commanding voice. She tells him her name is Lady Nolan, and that he's been pulled into Midgard through something called the Otherworlder's summoning spell. Her tone shifts as she apologizes, saying he wasn't supposed to be here. This whole thing was meant for someone else, but he got caught in it by accident. Our guy is confused and asks how this even happened. Nolan breaks it down, saying the summoning system randomly pulls people from countless worlds. Even though he wasn't on the list of targets, the system somehow snatched him. Then she explains that the spell is dangerous because the laws of Earth and Midgard are completely different. Using it risks tearing this world apart. That's why it's forbidden, but some reckless nation still went ahead and cast it. Nolan stepped in when she noticed it being used, trying to stop it, but she couldn't fully block it. For now, she's brought him here to keep him safe. He asks if the other people summoned are here too. Nolan shakes her head, saying they were sent to the Holy Sidonia Empire, the place where the spell was cast, because they were the proper targets. Realizing this was a mistake, he pleads with her to send him back home. Nolan sighs and admits she can't. She was so angry at the nation that used the spell that she made sure they couldn't use it again. She starts explaining, but her words get too technical for him to follow. Feeling low, trying to figure out what went down, Nolan looks him in the eye and says he can't go back, because his old world is out of reach, and worse, he doesn't even have a body anymore. That's when he notices for the first time he's nothing but a glowing soul, shaped like a cue ball. He's shook, asking her how this happened. Nolan explains that because he wasn't a target, he got hit by the spell's blowback, and it destroyed his physical form. Anger and fear creep into his voice as he tells her that an apology isn't fixing anything. He demands to know what's next for him. Nolan's expression softens as she gently tells him to let go of his old life and start fresh in Midgard. He felt unsure, wondering how it all went down, when he asks if she can send him to the Sidonia Empire like the others, but Nolan nods, saying she can make it happen if that's what he wants. Her words sink in as he tries to process the weight of everything that's happened. The Sidonia Empire isn't exactly the best place, and Nolan makes it clear his situation there would be rough since he wasn't supposed to be summoned. That news hits him hard, but Nolan quickly steps in, telling him to stay calm. She feels bad for what happened and promises to make things right for him. She reveals she's planning to send him to a different nation where he'll have her full backing. On top of that, she's giving him her blessing as a way to apologize. He doesn't get how this works, but Nolan casually explains it's not much different from the fantasy worlds he's probably seen in games and anime. She insists it'll be exciting, but he's feeling more stressed than thrilled. Ignoring his reaction, she tells him to try opening his status window and focuses on it, and sure enough it pops up. He's surprised to see that he's 17 years old now, especially since he used to be a 40-year-old salaryman back on Earth. His status shows no job, and Nolan explains that jobs like salaryman don't exist here. She lists the kinds of jobs he can aim for. Combat roles like swordsman, mage, and knight, but also wild ones like professional cuddler and mattress tester. Then there are production jobs like herbalist, alchemist, blacksmith, and chicken trainer. He's not interested in fighting, so he asks for a production path. Nolan gives him a skill perfect for that, plus a few others to help him get started. She explains that as he uses his skills, he'll naturally unlock a proper job title over time. With everything set, she sends him to the continent of Asgard. When he lands by a peaceful pond, he notices his reflection and takes a moment to admire his new appearance. Digging through the items Nolan left him, he finds food, money, and a knife. Curious, he checks his status window again and realizes it could be risky if people learn about Nolan's blessing. He uses one of his skills to hide the blessing and some of his other abilities. Then he spots a long list of magic skills and decides to test a few of them. He skips fire magic for now, not wanting to risk setting the place on fire. Instead, he starts experimenting with earth magic, shaping the ground beneath his feet, then moves on to wind and water magic, testing each one with growing excitement. It's the start of a whole new journey, and he's ready to see where it takes him. Takumi watches his skills in action and thinks this world is exactly what a fantasy should feel like. Deciding to find a village, he begins exploring and notices some wood lying around. Then, using his appraisal skill, he identifies it as treant wood, a high-quality material obtained from a monster called a treant. This type of wood is highly valued for crafting staves, magical tools, and spear shafts. Excited by his find, then Takumi uses his blacksmithing skill to shape the wood into a spear. While working, he figures if the wood in this area is so valuable, the plants might be special too. He starts searching and soon realizes the area is packed with useful herbs. Gathering as much as he can, he quickly realizes his bag won't hold it all. So he stores everything in his item box, which has unlimited space. As he's finishing up, a girl runs toward him, screaming in fear and hides behind him. He looks ahead and sees a massive rabbit charging toward them. Takumi grabs his spear, getting ready to fight. The girl shouts that the rabbit is carnivorous, making him even more tense. The rabbit lunges, but Takumi manages to kill it with a swift strike from his spear. He's stunned by his success, then receives a notification that he has gained a warrior job, even though he wasn't planning to fight. The girl thanks him for saving her and explains she's from a nearby place called Board Village. She says she got lost while gathering medicinal herbs. Takumi asks if she could guide him to her village, and she agrees without hesitation. Before they leave, she notices the rabbit and tells him it's delicious. Takumi stores the rabbit in his item box, explaining that while it can't store living creatures, it works perfectly fine for corpses. The girl is amazed by his skill and introduces herself as Molly. Takumi introduces himself in return. The scene shifts to the Holy Sidonia Empire, where 3 confused humans stand in a grand hall. They've been summoned to a strange new world and are trying to make sense of what's happening. A girl wearing a graduation gown steps forward, welcoming them and explaining they've been summoned to act as heroes to save the world. The group listens to her words, but none of them seem to fully grasp what's going on. Elizabeth starts off by introducing herself as the first empress of the Holy Sidonia Empire. She pulls back her hood to reveal a face that looks straight out of a Joker sketch. The vibe she gives off is unsettling to say the least. Out of nowhere, Akane, one of the summoned, gains a unique skill called Revelation, gifted by Lady Nolan. With it, she gets a divine message telling her to trust her instincts, they'll lead her to the truth. Akane takes the advice seriously and decides she can't trust Elizabeth, sensing danger in everything about her. Meanwhile, back in the village, Molly's parents thank Takumi for saving their daughter. Her father, Bunga, introduces himself as a hunter and his wife as Martha. Takumi asks if he can stay in the village for a while. Bunga and Martha don't mind and tell him the village is rich in herbs, and there's even a nearby ore vein. Takumi smiles, excited by the opportunity. Then Bunga introduces Babin, the village blacksmith, who seems eager to help out. Grateful, Takumi thanks them, but they mention there's no inn in the village. Instead, they offer to build him a home. Overjoyed, Takumi agrees. Then they show him a plot of land for his house, and Babin calls on the villagers to help with the construction. Takumi decides to help out, using his earth magic to level the ground. The villagers are amazed by how skilled he is with magic. However, the effort drains a lot of his mana, and Bunga suggests he rest while they handle the rest of the work. Later, the house is finished, and Takumi uses his carpentry and blacksmithing skills to make some basic furniture. Curious about his progress, Takumi checks his status window, wondering if he can switch his warrior job. Just then, a job change option appears. He selects Alchemist and Blacksmith as his primary jobs and dives into his new work. With Babin, Takumi mines silver, iron, and copper, as well as a rare magic iron ore imbued with mana. He plans to turn all of them into ingots, starting with the iron ore. Normally, smelting ore would require a furnace, but Takumi uses alchemy and earth magic to skip the furnace entirely. The process consumes a large chunk of his mana, but he's thrilled with the result as the ingot forms perfectly in his hands. Takumi pushes on with his work, determined to craft as much as he can using the iron and copper he's collected. One evening, Molly shows up to bring him dinner but finds him collapsed on the ground. When he wakes up, he explains he overused his mana and passed out. Martha gives him a stern lecture, making it clear he needs to take better care of himself. Bunga hands him a healing potion, which helps him recover quickly. Even so, Martha and Molly decide to keep an eye on him, dropping by occasionally to check in. Takumi keeps using alchemy over the next several days to turn his ores into ingots. Along the way, he finds small amounts of lead, gold, titanium, tungsten, and tin. With these materials, he crafts utensils and tools, and his alchemist and blacksmith levels shoot up fast. Later, Takumi works alongside Babin, learning more about smithing and lending a hand with his fire magic. Together they make a knife, and Babin proudly says it's his best work yet. Takumi's blacksmith level hits 40, while his alchemist level is at 33. He's frustrated though since he wants to focus on alchemy. One day, Takumi asks Bunga for some potions so he can try making his own. Bunga agrees but says all he has are basic potions. Takumi doesn't mind and gets to work. As he crafts potions, he can't help but feel like a mad scientist, reminding him of experiments he did as a kid. But when he finishes, he notices the color of his potion is different from Bunga's, and he senses mana coming from it. He figures this might be because he used water magic to prepare the base, and it makes him curious about other potion recipes. Later, Takumi eats a random poisonous plant on purpose, using his heal spell to cure himself after getting sick. This helps him build resistance to poison and paralysis, while also leveling up his light magic skill. Though it's a rough process, it pays off, and he learns purification magic. While testing his new skills, a massive armored boar appears, towering over him at level 25. Takumi grabs his spear and knife ready for a fight. The boar charges, and without hesitation Takumi throws his knife, but it barely scratches the beast. He follows up with his spear, but it snaps on impact. Switching tactics, he casts rock ball and wind cutter spells, but they don't work either. For a moment he wonders what he's going to do. That's when he notices movement behind him, a poison spider. Panic sets in, but then he realizes the spider is already injured. The boar charges at Takumi while he's distracted. Bracing for the hit, he suddenly finds himself saved when the spider blinds the boar, causing it to miss its mark. Even with this help, Takumi has no way to defeat the beast and scrambles for a solution. He gets the idea to use his decomposition skill in alchemy to crush the boar's head. The move works, and he's shocked to gain both martial art and magic combat skills from it. Crafting magic just saved his life, and he can't believe it. Turning his attention to the spider, Takumi notices it's close to death. Grateful for its help, he thanks it and treats its injuries. As he prepares to leave, a notification pops up telling him he can tame the spider. Surprised by the idea, Takumi hesitates, but the spider's shiny eyes make it hard for him to walk away. He asks the spider if it wants to come with him. The spider agrees, and Takumi tames it, discovering he can now talk to it telepathically. He asks if it has a name, but it doesn't, so he decides to call it Maple, inspired by the maple leaf pattern on its back. The moment Maple accepts the name, it evolves into a killer spider, and even its severed leg grows back. Later, Takumi shows the villagers the massive armored boar he killed. Everyone is shocked he managed to take down such a beast on his own. Molly notices the big spider on his back, and the villagers grow uneasy, but Takumi reassures them. Maple is a tamed monster now, and there's nothing to worry about. Bunga's shocked because taming insect-type monsters is straight up impossible. Takumi shifts the focus, saying they should concentrate on preparing the boar for a feast. The villagers are surprised when Takumi offers to share the boar with everyone, but they quickly gather for a celebration. While they eat, Bunga gives Takumi the fangs and leftover hide from the boar, explaining that these items can be sold for good money in a big city. Takumi asks about the nearest big city, and Bunga tells him it's a place called Bolton. Meanwhile, Maple is playing with the village kids, and Babin comments on how much brighter the village feels since Takumi arrived. Bunga agrees, but adds that Takumi doesn't seem like someone who'll stay in a small village forever. Elsewhere, Nolan watches over Takumi and feels pleased that he's doing well. Another Supreme Being approaches her, asking what she's expecting from the boy. Nolan plays it off, claiming she has no specific plans, but the other being points out she's done more than just help him. She gave him a special body, her blessing, and even sent him a whole year into the past, before the Holy Sidonia Empire's summoning spell. Nolan insists her actions mean nothing, but the look on her face tells a different story. Thanks for watching. Please hit like and subscribe, it makes all the difference.